What is going on, YouTube? I'd like to welcome you guys back to Red's World. Today we're going to be doing something that I've wanted to do for a little while. Basically, if you've seen the tier lists on YouTube, a lot of people have done the tier lists. It's like different colors, ranks, and things like that. Depending on the category, it might be best games, this or that, and whatever. Well, I ended up making one myself for one of the debates that still continues to rage on, and that's PlayStation versus Xbox. Now, in this debate, I set it up not to who has more exclusives. We know PlayStation destroyed Xbox this gen. This is completely unbiased. You can watch my channel. I've played both. I got PC. I also got Switch. It's not about who has more exclusives as to who has the best exclusives. So going into it, I made this list myself, and just basically, even if it is on PC, if it never came to Xbox or it never came to PlayStation, that is the games we're specifically talking about here. So let's go ahead and get into it. I may have missed some games. That being said, I sat here for hours taking pictures of the games and just trying to set up this tier list. So if I did miss any, which I'm probably going to recognize as soon as the video's over, but if I did miss any, let me know down in the comments. I will redo this. Like, we can do it another time, or even like, hey, what game consoles have the best launch titles and things like that. Right now it's not looking good for either of them. But yeah, so let me know down in the comments if there's any you think deserve to be in this list that meet those requirements. And also let me know what you guys think. There's actually, I'll share the link in the description down below to this specific tier list, and you guys can make your own tier lists and just comment down below, hey, I did a video for it as well, and we'll come over to your channel, or you could post it on my Twitter or whatever, tag me in it. And we'll come look at your video for the tier list. Again, this is all opinion, so this is not factual. This is not anybody, these are the games that I felt were significant enough and met the requirements that I set up to be in this conversation. So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so number one, let's go ahead and look at Twisted Metal. Now, with Twisted Metal, this game is classic. The only issue with the tiers here is some of the games, if they were to come out today, they wouldn't be that great. Twisted Metal is one of those games I feel that way about. If it came out today, a lot of people are like, oh, I'd love to see it remastered. Yeah, it would be cool, but at the end of the day, it wouldn't last very long. But irregardless, it's a classic. Let's go ahead and put it in that classic genre. Now Bruce Lee, this is Bruce Lee Quest of the Dragon. If you never played this game, man, you missed out. It was an incredible fighting game. This Bruce Lee game was fantastic. I remember it. It's probably one of the sleepers on this list, but because everyone doesn't know it, I'm just going to give it a solid. So that's an Xbox title. Now next we got Days Gone. Now I have not beat this Days Gone yet. That's a full disclaimer. But everything I've played of it so far is good. I really do enjoy the game a lot. I like everything about it. I think the shooting could have definitely had some improvements. But I'm going to put this up there on the classic list. I think it's one that everyone knows. Everyone's going to remember. I wouldn't say it's legendary. Death Stranding. Trash. Trash. Anyone who's watching this video that disagrees with me, you are entitled to your opinion, but Death Stranding has to be the most long-winded, horrible, drawn-out cutscenes. You can't do anything without taking 5 hours of listening to people talk. They tell you the same thing over and over. It's basically a walking simulator. I could not get through the game. It was absolutely terrible. Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. We're going to put that back up on the classics. Now again, I don't think Hellblade is incredibly well crafted. I don't think it's the most intricate game of all time, but it does what it does well, and it's got its own unique feel. I'm really hoping the second game is solid, because if they basically continue to expand what Hellblade is, it's got so much potential because how good it was, how surprising it was. The studio got bought by Microsoft. I mean, it's a classic in my opinion. Now, if it wasn't well known and it wasn't one of the biggest titles on Xbox, which were far and few between this generation, I would probably put it at a solid. But because of how well it did on a console that was suffering for exclusives, I gotta give it the classic title. Now we're gonna talk about a game called Mag. I don't know if you guys ever played Mag. Mag was a very, very ambitious game. If I'm not mistaken, it was 256 players online. It was essentially a game like Battlefield, but also like with the likes of a game like Squad, but also had like some sci-fi elements. Squad leaders calling things out, the massive maps, the vehicles. I mean, they did really good with it. Gameplay was kind of lacking, performance was kind of bad, but other than that, Mag was a solid game. Go back and watch some gameplay on it or something if you never got a chance to play it. You know, unfortunately, Mag did not get the attention that it was required to be a classic, but I'm still going to put it at the solid category. I think that was one of the sleeper games that everyone kind of heard about, but nobody really bought it. So next we have Sea of Thieves. Now, Sea of Thieves is a fantastic experience. When it just comes to strip down the idea of skill trees and grinding and everything like that, and just the experience of being on the boat with your friends, even by yourself, having to lower and raise the anchor, catch the wind at the sails, just feels like a ship simulator. But then it gets, you know, more animated. There's a lot more fun to it. Things like the Kraken and mermaids and things like that. But like at a first glance, Sea of Thieves, like just the feel of the gameplay is stunning. The only place where Sea of Thieves really suffers is the only progression is cosmetics. There's nothing to unlock. There's no better weapons. There's nothing. You're just playing to get more money to buy different sails, weapon skins, and things like that. And while that's cool, and the experiences do take you a long way, you know, I played a lot of Sea of Thieves just on the principle of playing the game. But in my opinion, I think what could have made it a legendary game is just having something to make me want to continue to progress and giving rewards to those who do play it other than cosmetics. I think Sea of Thieves is undoubtedly a classic game, so we're going to go ahead and put that up there. Now, Until Dawn, the next one we're talking about, and it's kind of like a walk around Walking Dead where you make choices and things like that, but the way they did it really changed things. Not only could you kill every character in the game, but the story was good, the visuals were fantastic, they had real actors, so the faces with the mocap were incredible. Until Dawn, while it's not a game that while playing it you're like, oh my god, this is crazy, I can, you know, it's super smooth, I can do this and that, it's like the aesthetic of it, the interwoven storylines, the replay value, the deaths inevitable at every corner, like it's a wild experience. Until Dawn just lacked in some of the gameplay departments, but other than that, I mean, it's definitely a classic in my opinion. The only thing that makes it not classic is some people don't know about it. But the thing of, and everyone who played Until Dawn liked Until Dawn, so I'm still going to make it a classic. Okay, so now we're going back to the original Xbox. We got a game called Blinks. If you never played Blinks, Blinks is a game that essentially was Microsoft's attempt at Spyro or Crash or Mario or these 3D platform mascots that were selling consoles. This was Microsoft's attempt at it. Microsoft, however, failed. Blinks was not a bad game by any means, it just didn't catch on. Everyone already loved Crash, Spyro, and Mario. Even Pac-Man and things like these started having 3D platformers. Sonic, Sly Cooper, like Blinks just wasn't, as aesthetically pleasing at this point because we had already seen so many of those games. I guess I could have put Sly Cooper on here. It was crazy though because Blinks didn't do the greatest. It did okay, but then Halo actually was such a hit that instead of having Crash Bandicoot, Sly Cooper, and things like that as their main mascot, Xbox had Halo, and these other consoles had kiddie 3D platformers, which in no way are they bad. But it was just weird. It was a really weird thing to see that kind of shift. But we're gonna put Blinks in the solid category. Tenchu Z. Tenchu Z was a game that really changed it. You felt like an actual ninja. And if you didn't get an opportunity to play this game, I highly recommend just watching some gameplay. The only reason I say that is because it can be a lot harder to get your hand on these games now. When this game came out, it was essentially what Ghost of Tsushima is now. It's like, oh my god, I'm on top of this roof, jump down, stab, like crazy, crazy gameplay, phenomenal. Unfortunately, I don't know how many people know of it, and for myself, I can't put it up on the classics category, so I'm going to throw it at a solid. The next game we got here is called America's Army True Soldier. For, what it was a really good first-person shooter, very tactical. You don't see too many implementations of tactical shooters on console still to this day. We've had things like Operation Flashpoint. We've had things like American Army. We've had things like, or America's Army, sorry, not American. We've even had things like Socom, but they're far and few between, and they just aren't really, I guess, much appreciated on console. Or whatever reason the developers aren't putting them on console, I'm not sure, but this was a really solid game. Okay, so next we got Heavenly Sword. Now, Heavenly Sword was essentially a God of War ripoff, but when it came out, it had so much thunder. Like, everyone was interested in this game. You had a female protagonist that was just super badass, and it was really cool to just have the new graphics and stuff. When it came to, that was a PlayStation 3 game, and God of War, the last one that came out, was for PlayStation 2, so it was like, oh, this is like God of War, except you're a hot female with really good graphics. So, I don't really have too much to say about the game. From what I've said, you could probably think of what it is if you haven't played it. I'm going to put that at decent. Okay, next we got Little Big Planet. This one's hard for me because this is also a very biased opinion here. I am tired of all of these games coming out and copying each other. Little Big Planet, in my opinion, did exactly what Mario was doing. They also tried to do like what Mario Maker was doing, where you can make your own levels and things like that. For what it's worth, I think Little Big Planet is a solid game, but I also think that it was super overhyped. Like, most people would probably put Little Big Planet as a classic, and I think that's disrespectful to the titles that are classic. I don't think Little Big Planet is classic. I think it's roughly solid. It has nothing that other platformers don't. So I'm going to still put it at solid just because it was, it did everything every other platformer did, but it did nothing unique. And to be honest, there's no like main protagonist or something that is interesting. It's literally just little sack guy. So next is an Xbox game called Whacked. If you guys never played Whacked, this game was nuts. There were so many different game types, but you get the power-ups, you get the mayhem, but it was essentially like team deathmatch, capture this, capture that, do this, and there were so many different game types like that. But the crazy thing about Whack that made it incredibly unique, one, it was hilarious. The game had so many wild, Mad TV type skits. There were commercials in the game. Man, the characters were all unique. They all had different abilities, different movements, everything, and it was a fantastic game. My first Xbox Online account was actually called Whacked Joshua because that was the only game I played at the time. So for me personally, I gotta put it at solid. I would put it at a classic, but I don't think that many people have heard about it. So that's where it's a bias, but I'll say solid. Next, we're going to go with Forza Horizon 4. I will say right off the bat, it's more so just Forza, the whole series of Forza. With Horizon, the regular Forza Motorsport, there's so many games. The impact they've had on racing games has been tremendous. A lot of people may not know, but Forza has done a tremendous job actually keeping just racing relevant on the Xbox. I would almost go, see, this is a hard one, because now I'm thinking solid or classic. I'm not even a big racing game fan, and I like Forza, so I'm going to say classic on this one. I don't think there's a single person out there who you can talk to if they're really into gaming who doesn't know what Forza is. Next, we have one of the best shooters of all time, Socom US Navy SEALs. Now, with Socom US Navy SEALs, anybody you know who has played Socom will still to this day tell you there is not a game like Socom. There are games that have similarities. There are games that do things well and even better than Socom. But not only was Socom so far ahead of its time, it was incredibly well balanced. The maps were fantastic. It looked good. It was online back in 2003. I cannot express to you guys how good Socom was. The single player, you could command your team. There were so many things that still to this day some games have not matched. And it's like, if you ask me, on the grand scheme of things, as an overall game, is SOCOM better than Call of Duty? Yes. Battlefield, neck and neck. But SOCOM, I still give the edge, only on the simple fact that we're talking about years later. I mean, there's not too many games out there that are beating SOCOM. It's insane how good the game was. So that is a classic. Next, we got Beyond Two Souls. Now, I tried to get into this game. I liked the concepts. It's kind of like Until Dawn. But for me, Beyond Two Souls just wasn't... It got super overhyped. A lot of people told me, oh man, it's fantastic. It's one of the best games. Nah, I don't really have too much to say about it. It was super underwhelming. And a lot of that could just be because people overhyped it. So I'm going to put that at decent. Sunset Overdrive. This was a game that kind of combined the feeling of Jet Set Radio, if you ever played that on the original Xbox. Fantastic game. I don't know, Tony Hawk and a shooter game. I don't know how to really explain it, but it was good, man. It was really good. I don't know if it's a classic. I don't know how many people like it, so I'm not going to put it at classic, but I think Sunset Overdrive was a fantastic game. If you haven't got an opportunity to play it, definitely check it out. Brute Force was a game that, just like Bruce Lee, Brute Force was a game that was a 4-player co-op game, online, split screen. The campaign was insane. Gears of War, way before Gears of War ever happened. It had incredible team deathmatch and stuff like that. Very old game though. I don't remember a whole lot about it, but I do remember it being awesome. And that was a pretty good Xbox exclusive. We'll put that as solid. I show the pain in the people we paint in the pavement, pour blood on the precipice. I can tell what you are thinking, we're breaking and caving and all of the relevant media sources cross swords with the forces and forces.